All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go through a couple different things today. And congratulations, you're all going to learn a new language today. It's not French, it's not German, it's not Japanese, it's Python, right? Okay, so let's do that. Okay, the first thing I want you to do is to go to Code Academy if you haven't already. Okay, so you have a web browser. All of you have web browsers, right? And you're going to learn Python. You need to log in. So if you haven't logged in already, just do that. Okay, you can sign up or sign in. If you sign up, you can do this by your favorite social media, or you can do like me. Because I'm a little bit insecure, I like to sign in everything by email. Okay, so I'm going to sign in by email here. And yeah, I never remember my password. Yeah, see? Yeah, probably I shouldn't have done that, right? So now I can't sign back in. Ha ha ha. Okay, wow, great. Okay, and we're going to be learning Python, so we're going to do exactly this course. All right, there's a lot of other courses here, and some of the other things might mention them. So we're going to do that. Okay. So I want you to sign up for an account. You know, one of you who's using a shared laptop can do this. All right, but instead of going through the whole thing, which is going to take a very long time. Okay, now Code Academy is meant for someone with no programming experience. That means previous to CS 1010, all right? For those of all of us in the room who've taken some programming experience, it's a bit too slow, all right? But if you're going through Vostok and you're coming from, you want a slower pace to Orbital, I encourage you to walk through all of the exercises in Code Academy, all right? Now, what we're going to do today is a bit of a crash course, so we're not going to do exactly that. Okay, actually I never shared the screen, did I? Okay, so let me do that now. Okay, and we're going to go to another site called learnpython.org. Okay, and we're going to do selected exercises back in Code Academy because we only have about 2.5 hours left to get everything done. Okay, so you're going to learn language very quickly, and it's going to go by quite fast. Sorry, wrong keyboard. All right, so learnpython.org is more for someone who already has some programming experience. You can see there's a couple other languages here, so we're just going to go through this. Now, probably you already know that Python is an interpreted language, okay? So those of you who took Java before, you already know what interpreted language is, right? It means that you need another program to understand what the program is supposed to do, right? It doesn't compile into something that you just press a button and run, okay? Not natively anyways. So what you have here on this side, hold on, let me do something here. Okay, on this side, what you have is a code window, all right, which will tell you what you can type in, all right? And when you press run here, yeah, then it'll actually execute a Python interpreter on a remote website with your code and spit out the results, okay? That's similar to what you're going to see in Code Academy later. All right, we're just going to run through the first set of learn the basics over the next hour and a half or so, and then I'm going to give you some exercises in Code Academy to do together as a pair. Okay? Can you guys all read that in the back? Is it too small? You guys probably have better eyesight than I do because I need to read this at much bigger font if I'm sitting in the back. Can you guys all read that? Yes. Okay, so we're going to do hello world. Okay. So Python is a very simple language. Okay. The simplest directive is the print directive. Okay. It simply prints out a line of code and includes a new line, unlike C if you've learned C. So a very important difference is between Python 2 and Python 3. They're very different from each other. And the easiest way to tell the difference is that the print directive is different. Okay, in Python 3 it's a proper function. In Python 2 it's not. So for Google App Engine, those of you who are going to follow Vostok, or those of you who want to use Python for other web frameworks, we're going to stick to Python 2. Okay, later on, when I ask you to install Python, you're going to have to install 2.7.6 or any 2.7 variant. Okay? And in 2.7, when you print a string, it's going to look like this. Okay? This line will be printed. Okay? It doesn't have any curly braces. If you were doing it in Python 3, you would need curly braces like that. Okay? Parentheses. Okay? So you can go ahead, if you're on this page, learnpython.org at en hello world, then you can just press run here, right? And then you'll have the output over here after it goes to the server, and they ask you to actually do something, you know, use the print command to print the line hello world. So we're going to do exactly that. We're going to fix this code. Okay, and we're going to run it. Okay, and you've done it. All right? Very good. So another thing that you want to note about Python is that it does something very useful that you are already doing for other programming languages. One is indentation, right? Everyone tells you you must indent your code properly to make it readable. Okay? Why not introduce semantics into that? Okay? So what we mean is that when you indent something, you are telling the Python interpreter something about the nature of the code that you're indenting. Okay? We call all the code that you're indenting at the same level of indentation a code block. Okay? There are some things that expect code blocks. For example, a function is something like a code block is a set of statements that execute as a result of calling a function. Okay, an if statement has a code block because it is basically saying that there's a chunk of code that needs to be executed if the if is true, right? So all of that is indented. You do it already, right? For C, for Java. So now it's going to mean something, and now you don't need to have curly braces or anything like that around it because we don't need them. Okay? The other thing that makes sense in Python is that a carriage return also means something, right? In Java or in C, you need a semicolon, right, at the end of a statement to denote the end of a statement. Okay? You don't need to use that in Python because Python implicitly understands that the end of the line means a new statement. Okay? So you're getting two things for free. You don't have to add extra syntax. You don't have to worry about your brackets matching or not. Okay? So you can see that here, right? If x is equal to 1, if x is actually equal to 1, then I have this colon that tells me that I'm expecting a block, all right? Then here's the block that's indented 4 spaces, x is 1, okay? And then when I outdent, I go back out there. Okay, sorry. Let me see whether I can get that to work. Is that better? Yeah. Okay. Then you can see when I outdent, then I'm finished with the block. Okay? Everyone on this page? No problems, right? Easy? Okay, let's go on. Okay, Python has variables and types. They are not statically typed, which means you can change the type of an object. Okay, you don't need to declare variables. Okay, you can just use them, and then Python will assume whatever use case you're using, that's the type of the variable. Okay, Everything is objects oriented, so that means when you create a number, it's also an object. Okay. So numbers, Python supports two types of numbers, integers and floating points. Okay. So to define an integer, just do that, right? So you can execute code if you wish. Press there. Of course, you don't get any expected output. I'm only defining a variable, right? Define a floating point number, I can do the same, right? No output there, okay? But there are two ways to do it, right? You can either use this notation 7.0, or you can give the constructor a float, right? And then give it an argument, 7, and then it'll return an object, which is the same shortcut notation for that, okay? So I get a number that's a float. Strings are defined with either single quotes or double quotes. That's pretty simple to understand, right? If you have single quotes, what do you think it means? Single quotes in other languages mean the same thing as they do in Python, all right? It means that the thing inside the string is treated as a literal, right? No changes. So if I have another double quote or something inside, it's going to be inside of the string. Okay? Whereas a double quote, right, I can include apostrophes or other things inside of it, right? So I can include all of that inside of there without having escapes. All right. Python is very nice for those of you who want to build international applications. Okay, maybe your web app wants to be in Tamil or in Chinese, because all the strings that are in Python can be represented as Unicode, all right, natively, without a lot of work as it is in Java or in C. Okay, you're not going to cover that today, but maybe along down the road you need to think about having titles of events or other things in Chinese or Tamil or Malay. Well, Malay uses the Roman character set, but never mind. Okay. So you have the simple character operations, right? 1, 2, 3 equals 1 plus 2. So you have two variables being added. Okay. Hello world is two strings, hello and world. You can concatenate them together, right? So you won't get any output for that, but you could print them out if you wanted to. Okay. You can try other variations. I mean, this is the point of having the interpreter in the browser, right? So you could say, for example, print hello world plus 3, right? Will that run? Okay. So you can already see some things about the print property, right? When you use a print, it's expecting a string here, but you can't add a string to a number variable. It doesn't make sense. You have to cast it in some way, okay? So we'll talk about that maybe later, right? Assignments can be done to more than one variable simultaneously. It's not normally used, but you can do this. So you can say A is assigned the value of 3, okay? And B is assigned the value of 4, okay? And as I said earlier, mixing operators between numbers and strings are not supported. Okay? So go ahead and do this exercise. If you played around with it, just press the button reset here, then you'll get it back up. All right? The target of this exercise is to create a string, an integer, and a floating point number. The string should be named myString and should contain the word hello. The floating point number should be named myFloat and contain the word number 10. And the integer should be named myInt and should contain the number 20, right? So your expected output should look like that. Okay? That's simple enough that I'm not going to go over it. Just try it out. Okay? Once you've done that, you can jump to the next tutorial. Okay, an integral part of Python that you're going to need to know how to do when you assemble your Google App Engine to handle two different data structures. One is a list, which is what we're going to go over now. Okay? Lists are like arrays, right? They can contain any type of variable and can contain any type of variables that you wish. It's just a sequentially ordered list. Lists can also be iterated over in a very simple manner. Let's look at how to build a list. Okay? So a list is notated with square brackets. Okay? So you have an empty list here. That's my list. Okay, and then I can append objects to them. So this is appending the object 1, a number 1, an integer 1, and appending another object, So now I have a list of size 3. Okay. Then I can also print, right? I can print these in these separate ones here. Okay, so I get 1, 2, 3 for these prints. Okay, and I can iterate over them, right? So we said lists are just sequentially ordered sets. Okay, so I can iteate over them. So the for loop in Python looks quite different than what you may be used to. Okay, you have an iterator. Okay, for I in some iteration. Okay, so we're using for x here, and I'm just giving it a list. All right, there are many cases in which you want to iterate over a list. You don't care about the index. Okay, you just want to go through everything in the collection. All right, and this is the shortcut notation that Python adds to you. Okay, so I say for x in my list, colon, all right, print x. Okay, and that will do exactly that. For x in list, my list, print x, right? So you can play with this code. You can add another couple of things here, -1 and 0, for example, and you can run it. And then after a while, you should get some output, right? So I got the first 3 members of the list, which you can see here are -1, 0, and 1, because I changed the starting list. And then I said, print all of the lists, print everything in my list, okay? And it'll just go in sequence from the first to the last. Okay? Everyone all right with that? Anyone falling asleep yet? Yeah, if you were falling asleep, you probably wouldn't answer, right? Yeah. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, we have basic arithmetic operators. Okay, they obey the same type of order of operations as you do in a normal programming language. Sometimes you need to use the modulo operator. That happens a lot in hash functions if you've learned them already. Okay, so sometimes you'll need to do that. You have 2 multiplication symbols to make exponential relationship, right? 7 to the power of 2 cubed is 2 to the power of 3 here. Okay. For operators with strings, you have the concatenation operator with plus. You can also use the times operator. This is a little bit unusual, but this will put 10 hellos together. Okay. Okay, and we can run that. Okay, and we'll get a nice long list of 10 hellos. Right? Using operators with lists, this can be joined with the addition operator. So this is just putting one list together with another, right? So let's do that and print that out. Print all numbers. Okay, and you saw earlier we had hello 10 times. You can do the same with a list, right? So you could say, I want print all numbers 3 times, okay, and that is going to give us a list of the same numbers but repeated 3 times in a row, okay? So you can see it's starting over again since here, right? Okay, so you can try to do this if you want. If you've already fiddled with the exercises on that page, again, you can just press reset, okay? And then you have what the code exercise asks you to do, right? So create 2 lists, one called x_list, y_list, which contain 10 instances of the variables x and y respectively. Okay, so here there's an object called x. Okay, so I need to change this code. And you're also required to create a list called big list, which contains variables x and y, and 10 times each by concatenating the 2 lists you have created. So you can try to do that. Okay, I'll start this exercise for you. All right, something there, something there. And then for this list, I could just put the 2 of them together. x list plus y list. Okay, and then run that. So let me go fix that. Oops. Okay, could run that and see whether we get the right answer. Okay? These are pretty simple, right? They behave the way you expect them to do, right? But there's no quirks yet. That's good. Okay, we are not going to cover string formatting much here. It's C style if you know C. If you don't know C, don't worry about it. Basically, you can have a print statement look a little bit like this. So this is a little bit hard to decipher, so I'm going to blow it up a little bit and try to explain it to you. Can you read that? Yeah, okay. So you have a print statement here which has a string, okay, separated by a modulo operator, okay, and then some other stuff that comes after it, all right? And what you're doing here is you're creating two placeholders, okay? This %s stands for a place for a string to go, and the %d stands for where an integer goes, okay? And then we're going to fill them in with whatever goes afterwards, okay, after the modulo side. You're going to see this a lot tomorrow, Wednesday, when we go to JIT2 templates for Google App Engine, because basically a template is a slot with HTML, okay, this web page stuff in it, but it's going to have slot fillers for what your application is going to pull from your database and populate in, okay? So you're going to see this type of syntax again, okay? But basically what you can think of about it is there's a, you know, a template, okay, which I've highlighted here, and that there are placeholders for things to go in, all right? So I'm going to take the first thing over here and put it in this slot, okay? So the name variable, if it's a string, I'm going to put it here, and the age variable, I'm going to put it here as an integer, okay? So it's going to evaluate, and it's going to print out John is 23 years old. Okay. Now this notation looks a little bit familiar to you because it looks a little bit like a list, right? A list, unlike a tuple, has square brackets, okay? But a tuple has parentheses, okay? A tuple is like a list, except it cannot be changed, okay? It's not mutable, all right? Once you create a tuple, it does not change. List, on the other hand, you can destroy, you can append, you can extend, you can delete, etc. Okay? But once you make a tuple, it is fixed. All right? You don't have to remember that. It will come across to you again and again until you remember it. Okay? These are all really, really ugly syntax that we have inherited from Unix and C from 20 years, no, actually now 35 years back, okay? When they started the first program, they just happened to give these things. So S stands for string, D stands for decimal, but now it means integer, F stands for floating point, etc. Okay? You don't have to remember these, no one ever does, okay? So let's see whether we can write a format string which prints out the data using the following syntax. Hello, John Doe. Your current balance is 53.44. You know, if we're nice to John, we can give him some more cash. Why don't we do that? Okay, and we need to put a format string and a data. So we'll go ahead and do that. We know our data is some type of tuple, right? We need a John and we need a Doe. And we need to print a balance, so I'm going to give the number as well. Okay, so that's all of the information that I'm going to put in my tuple. Right, and I need a format string. Right, I already have the hello there. Okay, so I'm going to just keep that format string there and then modify that one. Okay, so hello, S. Your current balance is %D $stuff. Okay? That looks pretty ugly, right? No one knows what that means, right? Basically, I'm going to use this %S, fill it in with data 0. This %S fill it in with data 1, and then the current balance, that's just a normal string, and then the %d at the end, it's going to be filled in with data 2. Okay? So you can try to run that. Hopefully it works. Nothing like demoing live and finding you have syntax errors. So let's try it out. Bum, 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 bum. Okay. Oh, I didn't do it right? Because I formatted it as an integer. It should be a float. And I need to use some level of precision, but we're not going to worry about that. Okay? You can try to figure it out on your own. The floating point is going to need some things here, okay, to show the number of digits that you need to have to the right of the dot. Sorry, I'm going to fix it anyways and just try it. How? It didn't work at all. Okay, that's fun. Okay, strings are also very important, right? They're bits of text. They're anything that you can define between quotes. That's pretty easy to understand. You can find the length of the string by calling the length function, okay? So that's easy to do. This puts out 12 because there's 12 characters long, including the punctuation and spaces, right? Strings, like every other thing in Python, they are objects, right? So all of you who took Java, you know object notation, right? That means you put a dot at the end of the object, and then you can call a method that's associated with it, right? So here's a method. It's called index. It works for strings, right? So what you can do is provide another string as an argument, and it will tell you where that string is located if it is found inside of another string, okay? Okay, now this won't work because you can tell there's no A string that was defined, so I had to actually go and put the A string there. So let's do that. A string, hello world. Bum, bum. Ah, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, so I get the index 4 because hello world, you can see from this, right? It has index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so hello world, the O is at index 4, not at index 5, right? Because we're computer scientists, we like to count from 0. Okay, there are a number of other things that you can try here, but we're going to skip over these in the interest of time and talk about conditions, right? So conditions are if statements, right? We're almost to the case where you're going to do some programming on your own, okay? So hang on for another 5 minutes or so, all right? Then you'll be able to do something, right? So you have conditions where you can look at the true statement, right? So you have print x equals to 2. We'll print out true. True is an object, okay? So it's a Boolean object. The objects are capitalized, so it's true or false, capitalized F and capitalized T, okay? And then you can make if statements, all right? So here's an if statement. If name equals John and age equals 23, okay? That's all condition, right? And the same is over here. If name equals John or name equals Rick, right? When I have two Boolean operators and an or that are being able to use to build a complex expression. Okay? There's a nifty trick that in strings and in sets that you can use. There's an in operator that doesn't exist in Java, okay? It just says if a specified object exists within some type of thing that can be having multiple things. So you can check whether there's something in a list. You can check whether something is in a dictionary or a hash table, okay? So if name is in one of these two list values, right, then print your name as either John or Rick, right? Because I've given it a list, and I'm asking if name exists in this list. Okay? The syntax is a bit different from what you may be used to, because again, you know, if you come from Java or you come from C, syntax is a bit different. So this is the Pythonic way of expressing how to write Python. Okay? So you can give the in operator a collection, and then you can check for its presence in a variable. Okay? Now, earlier I told you that Python has this really, really cool feature of using something that you're already doing, all right? Which is using your indentation, right? So code blocks are blocks of code where the statements all are supposed to be done together, right? So for example, in an if statement, you have a set of things that need to be done together, and else you have another set of statements that need to be done together, all right? So all we're going to do is indent them a bit so that we know that they're one big code block, okay? And when we're done, we're going to outdent and then say, I'm done with that code. Let's move on to the next thing I'm going to do, okay? So all of this stuff in here, all right? All of this stuff up here, that's one code block because it's all been indented. Okay, you can use whatever indentation you want, but it's suggested you use 4 spaces, okay, for readability. 2 is a bit too small. I happen to like 2, but 8 is too big, all right? So because you find yourself tabbing all over the place. Okay, Python also has an else if statement. Okay, so you can give an else if. All right, it just doesn't have the S in the middle. Okay, so again, for all of these things, when you expect a block of code, you need a colon at the end. Okay, so anywhere where you think there's a set of contiguous statements that you want executed together, you use a colon. Okay, ifs, fors, whiles, functions, they all use a colon to say, I want a block of code to happen next. Okay, when you outdent that block, you are done with your code of block. Your block of code, sorry. Okay, so that's what it looks like. If x equals 2, print x equals 2. This is our code block for the if statement. Else, the else is also expecting a code block, right? So you cannot just leave it without a colon. All right, so it's a little bit different. Okay, you need to have a colon because you want to tell the Python interpreter, I have a code block for you. All right, and the code block is this: x does not equal to 2. All right. Okay, we're not going to go over the is operator and the not operators. They're not very important, so we're going to skip. Bang, go to the next tutorial. Okay, now we're going to look at the loops. Okay, the for loop in Python is pretty different. It's going to take you a while to get to the hang of it, especially if you come from C or Java. All of you guys are used to having an index to iterate over things, right? Unless you use factories and iterators, okay? Then you're okay, all right? So what happens is that you have a list, for example, and you want to iterate over them. You just type for. You give your variable that you want to be assigned a value each time the loop runs, okay? Not the index, okay? So you might be used to seeing for I equals 0, I is less than 10, I plus plus, etc. You don't use that here, okay? You just say, I want the value of the variable to be stuck in this variable. That's what I'm going to put right before the for, right after the for. Then I use the in operator, okay? And then I give a collection, something that can be iterated over, okay? In this case, it's a list, all right? Then print primes, right? Okay, so there you go. So let's say I just want to iterate 50 times. I don't want to have to build a list of 50 numbers and then iterate over them, okay? Well, then you can use the range function, which does exactly that, okay? You can use xrange or range, okay? Range is what we would use in Python 2, okay? But Python 3, you can use xrange as well, okay? So you can execute that code. Right, so here you can see what's happening is I have x, I'm getting a variable x, it's going to go from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, so I'm going to do that, and for x range between starting at index 3 and going to 6, okay, then print x. Okay, a little bit different. It'll take a while to get used to, but I assure you it's a lot more compact in the way it expresses itself compared to other languages. Okay, while loops also make a bit of sense, right? I have a while statement, I have a condition, I expect a code block, right? So I'm just going to do what I asked to do here. Okay? You have the same type of statements that you would in normal programming language. You have a break to get out of a loop, continue to go to the next iteration of the loop. Okay? So let's try to do this one. Loop through and print out all even numbers from the numbers list in the same order they are received. Don't print any numbers that come after 237 in the sequence. Okay, so we have to go through all of the numbers here that are in the numbers list, right? So I want to go through all the numbers. Right, I can do this. And I need a code block, right? This interpreter happens to already indent it for me. Okay, and I can write some code in there that I want to do. Okay, so I could ask, for example, something that says if it's not even, pass, right? Continue to the next one. Okay, and if it is even but it's greater than, also then break. Okay, so you can translate that into Python. I'm not going to do it for you because I think it's something you should practice. Okay, just a couple lines of code. All right, everyone still with me? Anyone lost? We have a couple people floating around who will assist you if you're not quite clear on what's going on. All right, I assume all of you are looking at your laptops because you are following. If you're not following, please let us know. Complain on Piazza. This is a good way. I hope all of you read the note that I pasted to Piazza earlier. I'll just go over it for a second now. Okay, so I'll say it here. We recommend that you keep a browser with Code Academy open, Learn Python open, the one that I'm going over now, and Piazza, okay? We're going to use the Piazza tab so that you can post your questions to the forum now, okay? So that other people can help you, all right? This is about learning from each other, not learning from me, okay? So if you see that other people are having problems, you know, contribute your code, whatever, make it a little bit interactive. Okay, so I'd like you to do that. Okay, sorry, I figure out what I did here. Oh, great. Let's see. What did I do? Figure out what I did there. I think once I turned off the screen share, it stopped entirely. So